Panama City is kind of like separated into two areas. You have Panama City where people live and work, and it's your normal city. And then you have Panama City Beach, which is full of the condos and resorts and hotels, and it's where tourists come. But they're two different worlds. In actual Panama City, statistics show you have about a 1 in 118 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. Just like a mile away, right here where I'm standing in Panama City Beach, Florida, and the tourist location, that number goes up significantly, and you have about a 1 in 13 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. Today, for this video, I'm going to be talking about one of those such violent crimes that occurred right here in Panama City Beach. Today's story is about Pamela June Ray. On August the 12th of 1992, Pamela June Ray brought her two kids right here to Panama City Beach. In fact, she called in advance looking for a hotel room. A hotel clerk told her there would be a room available, but when she got here, there was no vacancy. The hotel actually sat right here. It has since been tore down, and this building that you see in front of it put up in its place. This was the Wilhite Apartments. She walked over. They had a room, but there was no one in the office. They wouldn't be until 8. As this was going on, it was about 2 a.m. So she decided she was gonna wait. She was gonna wait it out. Her kids were in the back seat of her car asleep, so she was gonna wait it out. Her husband had to work, he could not come, so it was just her and her kids. She was seen right here by her car by at least 7 different people, 2 of them police officers. They witnessed her sitting in her car reading a newspaper. They witnessed her standing outside of her car in several different ways. They saw her right here just waiting it out. Around 5:30 a.m., a police officer who was actually sitting across the street down this way, he saw Pamela June Ray get out of her car and walk away with what he described, a sandy-haired beach bum who was carrying a ferret around with him. He witnessed them walk from the parking lot, which actually would have been all over here on this side of the parking lot, and then about right here where I'm standing, I don't know, maybe even out into this middle area here would have been the pool area. He watched them walk from her car across the front of the lobby and over towards the pool area before he left. That was the last time anyone seen Pamela June Ray alive. The next morning, employees of the Wilhite Apartments that was right here, they came out and found her kids all alone in the backseat of the car asleep. And shortly thereafter, they called law enforcement. Once law enforcement got here, they checked with all the hotel guests who were staying in the Wilhite Apartments. And shortly after 5:30, which was the last time she was seen, multiple tenants of the apartment complex heard a woman screaming over by the pool, which was like right in this area here. They heard a woman screaming. This is 1992. Things were a lot different. They did not have phones in all of the rooms. Because of that, no one reported it. No one reported the screams until the next morning when the police knocked door to door asking about it. Pamela's husband quickly rushed down here from Atlanta. He offered up a $10,000 reward for anything. He and tons of volunteers combed all the beaches, which are just right on the other side of these condos here. In fact, right here in between the two is a public beach access. They combed all of the beaches, all of the wooded inland areas. They used helicopters, they used dogs, they had hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. They plastered flyers all over Front Beach Road. This is Front Beach Road, and obviously you can tell why it's called Front Beach Road, because this is the main strip that runs up and down Panama City Beach. They never found anything. Police questioned several beach bums, because that's who she was described as being seen with last. They questioned several other people who had committed similar crimes in the area, yet they had no luck. There were no leads, and the case went cold. Several years later, in 1998, police were surprised when convicted serial killer Mark Reeby confessed to killing Pamela June Ray. He had been convicted of a murder of another woman, coincidentally, from right here in Panama City. He said that he was driving through the area looking for someone to rob when he spotted Pamela's out-of-town place, sitting in the parking lot right here. He thought she would be an easy target. So he pulled off the road. He forced Pamela away from her car at knife point. Thinking of her children's safety, she went with him. Reeby then told police that he either dumped her body in the ocean or he buried her right outside of town. He said that the two murders clashed together and he could not exactly remember what he had done with her. The thing was, though, is that he told the Panama City Police Department something that they had never released publicly. Something that only the killer would have known. And that was that when he killed her, he said he took a single key out of her hand. It was her car key. And not only was that something that she was known to do almost her entire life, when she was being led away, she locked her children in the car so they would be safe. She took with her the lone car key so that she could get back in when she came back. And Mark Reeby told them this when they interviewed him. When he confessed to it, he told them that he took a single key out of her hand. The police never released that information. They knew that her car key was missing, but they kept it to themselves. They knew right then Mark Reeby must have done it. He must have done it because he knew the whole key thing. At the same time that he was confessing to Pamela June Ray's murder, he also confessed to a dozen other murders from around here in the local area. And then he later recounted all of those confessions, including Pamela Ray's. Because of that key thing, though, even though he recanted, police never gave up. He was their number one suspect. He was the top guy, and they didn't look really at anybody else after. They just couldn't prove it. Even though he had told them about the key thing, they just couldn't prove it. They needed to find a body. They needed to find some kind of evidence. The next day after she went missing, it poured down rain here in Panama City Beach, washing away most of any evidence that might have been left behind. They asked that if there was anyone out there who was here in Panama City Beach in 1992 and may have seen Mark Reeby, or maybe he was in an old photo that people were taking at the time. They're asking anyone to call the police department to help them try to solve this case. There are some questions, though. There are some people out there who think that she faked her disappearance or her death because of her growing legal troubles. Now, I personally don't think they have anything to do with each other, but I will explain. All right, in 1989, a bank clerk accidentally wired Pamela's father $400,000. Pamela's father says he was expecting a payment from the government for something, for somewhere close to that amount, and he assumed that was what that payment was. He didn't realize that it was a bank error. Well, they took that money and they, as a family, nearly spent it all. They bought a condo here in Panama City Beach and they put it in Pamela's name. But again, it was an error by a bank teller. It was a giant goof. But the Raisins, yeah, obviously, like I said, they thought they had received it for a different purpose and they spent it. And because they spent it, that obviously meant they couldn't return it. The law enforcement called up to them. At first, they were spared jail time. The judge understood the whole situation was a goof up, and as long as he agreed to repay it, they would not go to jail. And they did repay most of it. I think they repaid $300,000 of it or something like that. They had $100,000 to go. But when they got behind on the payments, the district attorney's office got frustrated, and they were all indicted and arrested again. In fact, Pamela Ray, when she was abducted and killed, or they suspect she's killed, but they've never found her body. So we'll just say when she was abducted here in Panama City Beach, she was out on bond. The thing about it is, though, she left her kids behind, and anybody that knew Pamela Ray, they would all agree that she would never leave her kids behind, not for anything in the world. Her family and anyone who knew her all dispute the claims that this could have been done to get out of her legal troubles. According to Mark Reeby's daughter, at the time of Pamela Ray's disappearance, she would have been 4 years old, and she was with them in the car. They came down here to Panama City Beach. All of a sudden, they picked up and moved to Warrensburg, Illinois. They took 2 U-Haul trailers to Illinois, and as soon as they arrived in Illinois, Mark Reeby forced his children to go out and dig holes in the ground. He later came behind them and buried black trash bags in those holes. After she became older, Pamela's family, most notably her sister and Mark Reeby's daughter, spent some time talking, and Mark Reeby's daughter told her this. So with Pamela's sister and Mark Reeby's daughter telling the police this information, in 2019, just last year, they went up to Mark Reeby's old property in Illinois and excavated it, but they didn't find anything, unfortunately. At the same time, Pam's father, whose name is Ralph Bennett, he was the one that got the $400,000 goofed up and sent to him, and then they spent it. After his daughter disappeared, he searched tirelessly for her. One day, he even got to speak with Reeby's mother, and they kind of developed a little bit of a relationship. Another time he was down looking for Pamela, he was over at Reeby's mother's house, and while he was there, Mark Reeby called. He got to talk to Mark Reeby on the phone. Pamela's father did. Reeby told Ralph Bennett that he killed Pamela Ray. Ralph Bennett dropped to the floor crying and died just a couple of months after he heard from Mark Reeby himself that he had killed Pamela Ray. He died, as I said, not knowing where his daughter was. It's horrible. I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't imagine it at all. Over the years, this story has attracted a little bit of attention. It was featured on Unsolved Mysteries. Piers Morgan, the news anchor who is from London, even came down here to Florida and went to the prison where Mark Reeby is at and interviewed him in jail about Pamela's disappearance and murder, because again, he confessed to these things and he knew details that no one else knew, but then he recanted later on. Those confessions still can be charged to him if they can prove it, if they can prove that he did it and the things that he's telling them is 100% true. So Piers comes down and tries to talk to him and ask him why he did it. Mark Reeby, flips out. I didn't do it. Piers tells him, I think you did do it. I think you murdered all of these women. It was interesting, but the case has gotten a little bit of notoriety through TV broadcasts, like I said, Unsolved Mysteries and stuff like that. But to this day, July of 2020, her body has never been recovered. They have no clue where she is. No one knows. Pamela's sister is still actively every day looking for her. They still come here to Panama City and try to get leads and tips. She's still actively trying to do everything she can to find her sister, even if she's dead. I kind of believe they've already accepted the fact that she's probably dead, that Mark Reeby killed her. But they want to find her remains, and they want to have a burial for her. That's the big deal. They want closure. Hopefully, one day they'll get it. It's a horrible story, and I feel so horrible for Pamela Ray's family, her widower, and her children. Thank you all so much for watching this episode. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, the families can get some closure in the whole deal. If you're new here, go down and click that subscribe button. Take it a step further, hit that notification bell icon. That way you get notified every time I upload a video. Tomorrow morning we're getting up and we're leaving Panama City Beach. Like I said, we'll go home tomorrow night, and then we're back on the road again, going on another trip that's going to be a whole lot of fun. If you want to help support the channel, check out the links down in the description box below. Thank you guys so much. I will see you again tomorrow. I hope you all have a great day. Please stay safe and stay healthy. Man, it's so humid in Florida.